Good morning and welcome to the ride. A little tiny bit late today. I've got to apologize for my jersey. I'm wearing a green jersey and the chroma key is keyed on a green background. I didn't think of that. So it is what it is. Anyhow, we're starting a little bit late, and that's because I've been trying to figure out this whole streaming technology stuff. I took a look at some. I actually downloaded and paid for a different software for multicasting that it appeared as though was going to do what I wanted it to do, specifically be able to combine streams from all these video sources and put it online. I screwed around with it all last night, all this morning, and I still can't figure it out. So I'm not exactly sure. My feeling is right now it actually doesn't do what I wanted it to do. But that is neither here nor there. Huh. That's new. I also moved my my tablet that has the ZWIFT companion app on it over here, and that had me apparently bump the tripod for this camera, and therefore it moved it over just slightly. The other thing is I was trying to find software, and I thought this software would let me do it. I was trying to find a way to be able to share my tablet screen so that you could see the ZWIFT companion app, and I was going to put that, I was going to move this whole screen over this way, and then in the empty space that was over here, I was going to put the companion app. But I haven't figured that piece of it out yet either. So we're right back to where we were yesterday and most of this week, which is a workable solution, but not quite as good for you as I expect it to be. So today is an easy day. It's an easy ride. It is we have the option of basically it being an off day or just walking consistently for 45 minutes or riding. And so why in the world wouldn't I ride, right? I'm going to adjust two things on the camera slightly. I'm just going to, oops, I didn't want to do that. But I think it's okay. And I think it's okay. I had to straighten it up a little bit. I don't know if it's actually plumb. This camera doesn't have a bubble level on it. And little things like that bug me. I don't know if they bug you or if they matter to you whatsoever, but they bother me. So I'm going to go over to the computer. I'm going to not really talk about the Basecamp active recovery walk, active recovery or walk ride, because it's just an easy, boring 45-minute ride. We're going to talk about the world I'm riding in, which was the flattest world that I could find in Watopia. So click on workout. Watopia, the volcano circuit. It's only 3.3 miles, 91 massive feet of climbing. If you remember, tomorrow we have that race up the Alpe du ZWIFT. And so yeah, today's an extremely easy day. Didn't want to have any climbing, and I'm going to be in erg mode anyhow, so I wouldn't move very far up any climb. So it's a 45-minute extremely easy workout, an extremely easy day overall. And then I get to try and put my cycling shoes on my feet. The last time I tried, I was not able to get my foot into my shoe. Hopefully today is a little different. I don't know. We're going to have to see when I get to try after El Ricardo. Oh, there is one more thing I have to do. I was able to get the live stream software to automatically feed to the YouTube, but I still have to go online to turn on Facebook. Not sure why. It's obviously my own ineptness, my own lack of technical expertise, my own, I don't know what you want to call it. The one thing I don't like about the software is when I hooked it up to Facebook or to YouTube, it pre-named the event. It pre-named it Progressive Aerobic Endurance, and that's obviously not what today's workout is. And so, I am honestly not sure. I know that's not a me issue. That's probably a software issue. But I'm going to run it. I don't know if I just created a conflict or not. Maybe there's two streams going on the American Mammal YouTube channel concurrently. One called Progressive Aerobic Endurance, the wrong one, and one called whatever today is, Active Recovery or Walk. So, nonetheless, I'm going to climb on my bike and I am going to start pedaling. There's not a whole lot to today. It's 45 minutes of easy pedaling, and then I got to adjust. Apparently, when I got off the bike yesterday, I was climbing. So yeah, I am in workout mode. I am wearing, well, you can't see it, which is different than the camera angle yesterday. That's interesting. Oh, now, it's not that you can't see it, it's that I'm wearing long pants, so you can't see my legs. It's really cold in the pain cave today. So, in addition to this green, I don't know if it's, it looks like you can see it. It's just the wrong color. It's kind of coming out of pukey yellowish something. I don't know. But I will not make that mistake again. After today, this jersey, which is my Lake Erie Wheelers jersey, which has shown up fine before in these videos. So I don't know what the problem is today, but it is what it is. So this jersey will go back into my jersey bin. If you've tuned into previous videos, you know what that means. And I will pull another one out. One that isn't quite so green. Literally green. It may actually be greener. A newer jersey. So I got a 5-minute warm-up, a 35-minute and 110 watt workout, a 5-minute cool down. I'm guessing at 110 watts. I'm riding at 15 miles an hour. So what's that gonna get me? 12 miles? Something in that range? So maybe at the end of the ride, I'll pump it up a little bit and go up to 15, or maybe I'm just gonna stop where it ends because I'm not supposed to overdo it. I don't want to overdo it. I want to be as fresh and as ready for climbing the ZWIFT as I can be tomorrow. It's going to be don't know, it's a 20-mile climb. I believe that the steepest sections of the climb are 14 or 15 or 16%, but none of those last very long. I don't know what the average, what do you call it? The average incline is. But I would say there are some very brief flat spots, but you're basically climbing the entire time. So, hey, Dave Hine said, right on. That's not me, that's another D. Hine. And M. Nolan said, right on. Hey, M. Gerard says, right on. Now, none of these people are in this world riding with me right now. So either you people are watching the video and you're logged into the ZWIFT and you found me and gave me a thumbs up because you wanted me to give you a shout out for giving me that right on. And I appreciate it. Or you're following me on ZWIFT, and when you log into the companion app, you have the ability to give an automatic thumbs up to everyone that you follow who is currently riding. So it could be either one of those. But nonetheless, it has the same effect on me, which makes me feel better, mo gooda, and encourages me as I ride for the next 34 minutes and 43 seconds at 110 watts. I can already feel some chafing. We don't want that to happen. So, a little adjustment there and I should be good. So for tomorrow, it's probably not going to be more than, I don't know, 90 minutes. It could be as few as 60 minutes, but I highly doubt that I will average 20 miles an hour climbing the ZWIFT. So, from a nutrition standpoint, I'm going to be burning a lot more calories because I am going to be climbing the whole time. So I'm going to be burning more calories than I typically do in an hour or an hour and a half. I'm going to have to think about that in terms of my nutrition. The good news is I'm on my trainer. So I've already got an apple, which is green as well. Probably the same green as my kit. And yeah, they look about the same, don't they? That would be a Granny Smith if you want reference for the color. So yeah, I'll probably have a spare apple or two. I'll have a Granny Smith like this one, maybe this one. I'll have a Red Delicious because they're extra juicy. And right now I've got a protein bar, I've got 2 Martin gels sitting here, but I'll have to climb into my nutrition bin and I'll pull out another bar just in case. I think this is the one with the caffeine, so I'll grab one without in case I don't want caffeine, but I feel I need protein, which for this ride tomorrow I probably should not, but you never know. And yeah, I'll grab at least a couple other gels. I'll grab, these are both the Black Martin gels, so no caffeine. So I'll grab one with caffeine. I may or may not mix up a bottle with the Martin mix as well. And I'll have probably 3 or 4 bottles. But better to have too many than not enough. And I've always got 2 standby store-bought bottles in case of an emergency. In case I get really, really thirsty and the bottles that I filled up to have with me are empty, and that's happened on rides in the past. And let me tell you what, being in the pain cave is painful enough as it is. But being in the pain cave and being hot and being thirsty and not having any water, whoo-wee, that is horrible. Man. My allergies are getting to me. So, yeah, I'll probably have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, probably 6 choices for nutrition for like gel and bar type stuff. And then I'll have an apple or 2 and a banana sitting there so that I can peel them. I'm gonna be out of breath the whole time. I'm not going to be at my threshold or above it for the entire 90-minute ride, or 60 minutes if I can. If it was only 60 minutes, theoretically, I should be able to be at my threshold, right? But I will be above. I'll be in zone 3 and kind of mid to upper zone 3 the whole time, and pushing into zone 4 when I need to. Certainly pushing into zone 4 for any of you who have ridden up the ZWIFT. Hey, B. Bridgers says, right on. Thank you. So any of you who have ridden up the ZWIFT know that you've got the last left-hand turn before the last right-hand turn. You kind of make a sharp left-hand turn, and there's, I don't know if it's like a barn or just spectators over here, right? And then it's like a little bit of a climb, but then it flattens out, or even maybe it goes downhill slightly before the grade picks up some, like maybe 8%, maybe 6%. And then maybe 3 or 4 tenths, that would be half a mile. And then you make that last right-hand turn. And that last right-hand turn looks more grueling than it is. I think it goes up to 10 or 11%. But it doesn't last very long. But you see the banner up there, and the banner looks closer than it is. But certainly, when I get to that last right-hand turn, and probably when I get to, when I get to the last left-hand turn, although you're coming off of a pretty steep section right before that last left-hand turn. But I will my goal will be to be able to be at threshold from that last left-hand bend all the way to the finish. And possibly be at that point from the left-hand turn, or somewhere between the left hand. I should, if I play my cards right, which I'm not really necessarily all that good at, but if I play my cards right, getting up to that point, I should have enough energy, because that might be 10 or so minutes from that left-hand turn to the finish. So I should be able to crank it up and be at threshold the rest of the way. But chances of me holding back in the middle of the climb, I should be able to do a fairly decent job not being fooled or conned into joining a faster group from the start. I know I can stay focused and moderate my effort at the start, at the lead into the climb, and then as we start going up the climb. What are there, like 25 or 28 switchbacks in the road? So I should be able to do a decent job at not being foolish the first quarter of the route. But then I may either feel a little more energetic than I should, or than I think I am, or I don't know, somebody might just come up from behind me and piss me off and force me to up my watts a little bit more than I want to, or that I should, rather. And so, if that happens, I won't have as much energy when I get to the top. And I want to turn it on. And obviously that'll affect how early I can crank out my max wattage before the finish banner. But a lot of that, I mean, you can plan for perfection, but you gotta, at least I need to understand that I'm never going to execute at that level. So I have a basic plan in mind. I'm generally better at actual events, at being able to weed out the guys who go too hard too early. And who is it? Is it Serena or Rebecca, or maybe both of them? They talk about how when they're in races, how, you know, by the last quarter of the race, you know, they're always up in the front pack or in the front altogether alone. And everybody asks them, whichever one, or if it's both of them, people always make a comment about the fact that, why are you never in the front at the beginning? And their statement to us in training basically is that where you're at in the beginning of a race means nothing. It's all about where you're able to position yourself at the end. And many times in live events, and obviously in these virtual events as well, but oftentimes the people who, jump out from the start or very early in the race, in the ride, in the whatever, they do it because of their egos, because they think that maybe they can hold that out for 100 miles or however long the course is. But 10 miles or 15 miles or 20 miles or 25 miles in, guess what? They ain't doing it. So, yeah. A good example of that, last year, I rode an event in northern Kentucky. An event that was hosted by the Cincinnati Cycling Club, the CCC, the Tri-Cs, called the Licking Valley Century. So, I went down. I had not done an event in over a year, thank you, COVID. I spent most of 2020 not riding, sitting on my couch getting fat and lazy and miserable. But when it came time for Basecamp, I pulled my bibs up, said, I'm fixing this. And I followed the program much more closely than I had in years prior. So I got to that event. It's in the spring, but it's in the late spring. It's like the beginning of June, I think. Maybe it's in May. Anyhow, I get to the event. I know I'm in pretty decent shape. I've been focusing on training for the climbs, but in reality, this whole event was, for me, preparation for me going to a training camp in Boulder, Colorado, where I would be climbing. And I just wanted some time on the road in the hills before I got to the mountains. So I get there, and it's not a huge event, but it was pretty crowded, even though, there was a lot of COVID. There may have been 1,000 people, and I don't know, maybe half of those, not quite half of those, were riding the Century. Well, I'm a little bit behind because partially of when I got there, but I don't remember if I had a flat or I had to deal with some mechanical issue. So I was way back behind the start line, the starting corral, and got that dealt with in this gravel that you certainly can't ride your bike in, really can't walk in cleats in. I get up there, kind of in the back of the entire pack, kind of after they started. But we go out, turn right, ride down a little bit, make another right turn. So I'm kind of, dodging through the people in the back of the corral, or the back of the group at this point. And I'm pushing a little bit because I want to get up with the front pack to analyze who's there and how they're going to ride. Well, eventually I get up there. And the first, I don't know, 8 or 10 miles, we're riding through these hills of northern Kentucky. And they're not, I mean, there's nothing killer. There's just kind of a lot of, like, just undulating rollers. But those first 10 miles, there's a lot of, like, short section of road, or a short section of road that comes to a bend in the road, and so you have to turn, right? And then another short section, and then you have to turn. It may not be intersections. Most of them, they're just like a bendy road, right? Well, I'm up at the front, or near the front, and the people that are in front of me see this bend in the road. And they brake. They like slow way the hell down. And I'm like, okay, the first one, I'm thinking to myself, okay, they realized we're going out a little hot. We were a little hot. And they're just gonna kick it back. Well, right after they get through the bend, there's this huge freaking surge. They literally power out of, they don't power out of the turn. They just go from, I don't know, they had slowed down. They went from 24 miles an hour to 10 miles an hour to roll around this non-gravelly, well-paved, nicely groomed bend in the road, and then back up to 24, 25, 26. And of course, you know, that group would pull way ahead, and that would force everybody behind them to surge to catch up. And then once everybody caught up, like, the whole group kind of dropped back to, you know, 22, 23, right? And I'm like, this happens 5 or 6 times. And I'm like, what in the hell is going on? I said, first of all, these curves are nothing we need to slow down at all for, let alone, you know, more than half our speed. And secondly, it's asinine to then go all out and get back up to speed right away. Especially when you see there's another bend 1 or 2 tenths further up the road that you're going to slow back down to 10 miles an hour for. So that's just an early indication to me that, these people are either messing with the pack behind them, trying to create some separation, get some people to drop early, which is foolish, or they're just morons, right? Well, they keep doing it, and they keep doing it. The group is getting thinner at this point. For 10 or so miles, they keep doing this. Finally, I'm like, I did not stick with that for 10 miles. Eventually, I figured out, hey, if I get to a place in the peloton where I can maintain my speed going around these bends, because there's literally no reason to slow down. I won't have to surge. I won't have to scrub all that speed, just basically deleting, wasting all that power getting back up to speed. I can roll through these and ultimately stay in the same place in relation to those people in the front. I don't want to lose the peloton. I certainly don't want to lose the pack at all. But I don't want to fry myself, right? Hanse says, right on. Thank you. So that's what I do. And it works. Well, these people keep doing it for about 10 miles. Up and down and up and down and up and down. Freaking surge and then lag and then surge and then lag. Or they'd surge all the way to a red light and then lag. Because the cops at this event, by the way, they had traffic cops at every intersection. It was awesome. Except for the fact that these cops, who are getting paid by the event, who's getting paid by us, never get out of their car. So they're not actually stopping traffic. They're not doing anything for us. They're just freaking sitting there, collecting a paycheck, not doing their job. But that's another story, because we see that a lot, right? So, I don't feed into the insanity up at the front. Within the first 10 or so miles, those guys start cracking, right? They start to get tired. And they're like, oh, I've done my share. And they move deeper in the pack. Well, then the pace, stays 22, 23. It's a reasonable pace. But now, I'm taking some pulls. We're more consistent. We're not slowing down around the bends. We keep going. And we get a decent rhythm going. Well, then we get to some of the more, shall I say, challenging climbs. Again, none of these were mountains, but some of them were 8+%, 6 to 8% maybe, and pretty long. And they were segments for this race, this ride, whatever. They were timed segments. And these guys had them all mapped out in their computers. So it was beeping at them, oh, segment's coming. I'm oblivious to all this because I don't ride that way, right? It's not a race. There's no prize money. You don't get nothing for being up there. Plus, it's like the end of May or beginning of June, and it's the first time I've been on the road in almost a year. So, I don't, like I said, I don't even load those things into my computer, let alone take the time to do the research to see where they are, because it doesn't really matter to me, right? I'm more the type that after the event, I go in and I look on Strava and I'm like, oh, there was a segment there. Oh, huh, that's why everybody. Well, these people freaking hammer these first couple climbs. And I'm like, yeah. So like at the point, it was actually spray painted onto the road. KOM starts here kind of a thing, right? So you knew that it was there once you got there. They knew and were preparing coming into it. But they were hammering up these climbs. And of course, the pack was trying to stick with them. And, very quickly in a climb, you start to get some separation. People start cracking early, and then moderately, and then mid, and then later, and then before the end, right? You're completely separated. So we do, 3 or 4 or so of those, and I watch the dynamics of this group. We go up this one really long segment, and a couple of guys and a woman and a couple more guys come blazing by me, because I was pulling going into the segment, not knowing why everybody else dropped back. And I'm like, oh, all right, well, I'm just going to kind of keep going my pace, right? I'm looking at my power, I'm riding my watts. That's what I'm going to do. I see the climb coming, again, not knowing or caring that there's a segment. And I don't know what my FTP was at the time, but I basically had gone there with the intention of mostly leveling my power throughout the event. I knew what I could do and still be comfortable and have some energy left over for the end. Kind of like I'm talking about for tomorrow. And so we're kind of going down a hill, and then the road, and then there's a bridge, and then the road bends, or the road bend, and then there was a bridge, like a tiny little bridge. So I'm going down this hill, maintaining my power. It's not a big hill, but it was a little descent there, right? Shallow. But I'm maintaining my power, so I'm separating from the group. Well, then it must have been like a turn into a bridge where you're kind of still turning a little bit. And I'm like, oh crap. So I scrub a little speed at the bridge. It's like a wooden bridge. And keep going. But I definitely scrubbed some speed. Well, I start going up the climb. I see the painting on the ground. Start going up the climb. I'm like, all right, I'm going to stay at this, whatever it was, 200 watts. Or 180, I don't remember what it was, 180 watts. J. DeGrody said, right on. And T. Murphy says, right on. And J. Kumball says, right on. Thanks to all of you. So needless to say, the people that weren't smoking it down the hill, who knew that bend was there, and or were literally just saving it for the KOM. I don't know, 30 seconds into the climb. It's probably a 6 or 7 minute climb. They come blazing by me. And I'm like, the top must be right there. Well, it wasn't. It was 6 or 7 minutes up, right? So I kind of keep going at my pace. Another 1 or 2 people come by me. Not as quick, but they kind of come by me. And again, I'm staying at my, whatever it was, 185 watts. And I'm focused on my computer. I'm focused on my pacing. And I'm not going to be distracted, right? Well then, 1 or 2 more people passed me, but like just barely. Again, staying focused on my computer, on my pacing, and I'm just doing my thing, right? Looking down every few seconds to make sure I'm not pushing too hard, and then just feeling my energy, feeling it in my legs, feeling it in my lungs, my breathing, if I'm going too hard, right? So, without, not too much time after that, I passed the first one that come. B. Collins said, right on. Thank you. I passed the first one who kind of crawled by me. And then the second and the third. And I'm like, well, that's all right. They went too hard. They're running out of energy. I'm still going. I'm still consistent at my, whatever I had set my pace at. So I keep going. I catch up to the people who kind of moderately passed me. There were 2 or 3, I don't know of them. Maintaining my pace. And I'm like, this crap works. These coaches, these pro cyclists, they know what they're talking about. They weren't wrong when they were telling me how to effectively accomplish a goal. These people, Amber and Tim and Scott and Serena, these people, they kind of get it. They might have something here. Hey, who knew that pro cyclists who do this for a living and their coaches who do this for a living would know what they were talking about? Who freaking knew? So, I'm like, this might actually work. So I get to the top, and I'm not far behind the first couple guys who were sandbagging the whole time getting up to that point. We're 15, maybe 20 miles into the ride at this point. And then they freaking all out on this first climb. This is first of like 7 segments, it turns out, right? I kind of see them getting up to the top and turning and stopping. So I keep going, maintaining my pace. I kind of get up to the top. I slow down a little bit and I'm like, hey, what's going on? We're just waiting for everybody to regroup. And I kind of look, and we get to the top and it like tees, right? We turn, and the road we turn onto is like not even wide enough to be considered a 1-lane road. It really looked more like a driveway than a road, right? Like a car might just barely fit on this thing. So I'm like, you know, I don't really want to be with the pack going down this descent. I'm just going to do it on my own. And I'll just ride at my pace, and you guys are going to catch up with me anyhow. Well, 15 miles later, we had passed the first water refill station, because they're always too early, right? The second one was in a place where if I would have stopped, I would have lost the group. I would have been literally on my own. So now I'm locked in to being with them, right? Well, so I get to the top of this climb, and I'm like, you know what? I'm just gonna go. You guys catch up to me. I'm just gonna ride at my pace, and you guys seem to be faster than that, so I'm just gonna do this descent, and you know, before too long, you guys are gonna be passing me, and I'll be able to grab your wheel, and we'll go. Oh, I'm almost done already? Wow. So anyhow, 15 or 18 miles later, through 2 more segments, one of which was by far the most challenging segment of the entire 100 miles. I almost died on it. And then there was, and then it kind of flattened out a little bit. This one, it was a steep climb, and it was like curvy. It was one of those where, like every bend, you're like, all right, this is gonna be the top. All right, this is gonna be the top. Fuck, this isn't the top. So I get to the top, I ride through that. Then there's another short but steep one that's kind of just straight, and it's just up, and it ends like at this busy, onto this busy main thoroughfare, right? So you turn right. I'm still, by the way, I stop at the stop sign because traffic. I kind of look back, I'm like, where in the hell are they? I literally did not hammer those climbs. In fact, I crawled those climbs. Like, they should be here. Did I miss a turn or whatever? The computer says no. By the way, it was like, I don't know, 100 and something degrees. And all the humidity you would expect in northern Kentucky. So, 15 or 18 miles from when I separated from the pack, I'm freaking out. I've been out of water for way too long, because now we're like 40-ish miles into the ride, right? I finally get to the next water stop. I'm dehydrated. I've been trying to fuel, but without water, right? So I haven't fueled properly. I haven't hydrated properly. I'm hot, ungodly hot. I am dehydrated. I'm undernourished. And I'm like, you know what? I'm just gonna stop here. Take as long as I need. I'm gonna drink 34 bottles of water. And I'm probably gonna take some of their salty snacks, because that helps you hydrate, right? And some Gatorade And I'm going to take my time and I'm going to get set. I'm going to sit in the shade. I'm going to try to pee. Couldn't, dehydrated. Or very little came out, and it was really dark. So, and I'll just wait for the group, unless they're never showing up. Well, I literally stopped for 10 or 15 minutes. I was laying on my back, my feet up on my bike, in the grass. I had already had a couple bottles of water, a bottle of Gatorade, or whatever they were giving away. Had some of those salty pretzels, which literally all I wanted to do was just suck the salt off of them. So I had that. I think I had some M&Ms, or maybe, I don't know. I needed to get some carbs in me. I needed to get some water in me, and I needed to be able to get back I knew I was never going to be back to 100%, but at least get back to a place where I probably should be about halfway into this ride. Well, they finally pull up 15 minutes or so later, and I'm like, what the hell happened to you guys? So I wasn't going hard, and they're like, oh yeah, well, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, everybody's kind of getting tired, huh? A little run down from how aggressive you've been up to this point, huh? I'm like, maybe now, and I'm just thinking this to myself, maybe now we'll dial it back and be a little more reserved, which is good. I'm dehydrated. I'm undernourished. I'm overheating. I didn't have my core body sensor at the time, so I don't know how hot my core was, but I guarantee you it was over 101. So the end of the 45 minutes, 104 average, 12.4 miles, 45 minutes and 1 second. Not quite a full slice of pie, and 18 TSS, 269 kcal. I only have 6/10 to get to 13, and I'm probably almost there already. And I'm not quite done with my story, so I will finish it because I care about you. So again, I've spent 15 minutes before they got there. They spend, I don't know, more than 5 minutes, maybe 10, right? So I'm almost a half hour into this break. Not really called for, not a great decision. But again, all things considered, the dehydration, the lack of nutrition, all those things, right? The overheating. So now I've cooled off some. I literally hosed myself off with the hose that was in the church parking lot. So I did a decent job bringing my core temperature down, getting a little bit of rest, getting some hydration in me, getting some food in me, and I'm kind of ready to go. But I'm like, yeah, let's just kind of follow a more even pace now. Let's try to keep the group together because we're going to be much more effective together than alone. And frankly, I knew at that point, I'm probably not going to finish this alone. Like literally not finish. So I'm like, all right, well, we'll probably go out a little soft. Well, I wasn't really reconnected with the group as they were rehydrating and refueling and all that shit. So I go into the porta potty again and am able to go a little bit. And when I come out, they're already starting to roll. So I run over, I grab my bike, make sure my bottles are, because they were sitting next to the bike, are in the bottle cages, and I'm ready to go, right? Check everything in my back pockets, I'm all good. So I have to go a little harder than I wanted to catch up. We go out of this church, turn left. It's probably 2/10, maybe 3/10 up this
windy country road to a really busy road with semi trucks and stuff on it. So it has like a berm. And we have to turn left. Well, I catch up to him. A couple people go. I look to my right. There's a semi coming. A few more people go. So I'm like, okay, we all go. The semi kind of slows down for us, but you could tell that was the wrong decision for us to make. Well, then, even worse, another 3/10 of a mile, or maybe half a mile up the road, we're turning left again to get off that road. Well, this group I'm with, in general, is now blocking the road. So this semi, who now had to slow down so that we could get by, right? Because we were going, he didn't want to hit us. Now we're blocking his progress so that we can turn left, where we absolutely could have let him pass and had plenty of time to make our left-hand turn. But whatever. So, because this guy's behind us and I feel guilty, I was just following the path, but I still feel bad that we're slowing him down, right? So, I pick up the pace a little bit, as do other people that are in front of me. We make the left-hand turn so that this guy can get away. There were still people behind us that didn't pick up the pace. We start going down the road, and I'm like, hey, we're dropping the group. There were like 6 or 8, 4 or 6 maybe, and there were another couple that were further ahead. Well, this group slows way down, and they're hollering to the guys up front. Blah, 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 blah. So I'm like, all right, I'll go catch up to them, because they were like riding really slow at this point. I'll go catch up to them, and then we'll all just soft pedal until we're regrouped. Well, I catch up to them, another half-ish mile, maybe a little bit more up the road at this point. And I'm like, yeah, the group's way back there. They asked us to soft pedal until they catch up. We'll regroup at some point. And they're going 26. I'm spinning at like, I don't know, 230, 240 watts. And so I'm like, this is definitely too much for me. I'm already dehydrated. I'm already battling fatigue. I know in a perfect world, I can't carry 240 watts, which is above threshold for me. And I can't do it for 60 or 50 miles, or maybe a little less than 50 at that point. But so I back off. I start soft pedaling, thinking they're going to come. Well, you know, after a mile or so of that, I'm like, screw it, I'm just going to ride my pace. I'm going to ride to where I feel comfortable, where I know I can finish, and eventually, right? I rode down this one road for a really long time. I have no idea where I am. I've never ridden in the Licking Valley before. Every road kind of looks the same, but you know, this road was a little bit wider. It's kind of like, oh, maybe this is kind of heading back towards whatever. But I literally don't even have a sense of direction at this point, because the roads are also windy and everything else, right? So, hey, Jay Nichols, time to ride, says ride on. Thank you. So then we turn left at a church. And I turn left, I'm just minding my own business, managing my pace, right? And I see these 2 guys that I couldn't hang with. They're stopped in this parking lot behind this church, like basically on the side of the road, right? And they're like, you know, eating and drinking and having a conversation. I'm like, hey, they're still way back there, guys. Everything okay? oh yeah, we're just gonna wait for a while. Well, another 1 or 2 tenths up the road, guess what? Another segment. So again, I'm just riding my pace. I'm not focused on the segments. There's nothing other than ego that you get out of those, right? So I'm just going. And it wasn't too much further up the road, maybe 4 miles up the road, was the next water refill location, which they had told us about. They made a big deal out of it. Some local bakery baked bread and used local chicken, I think it was, to make these sandwiches. They were just, little, right? So I'm like, all right, cool. I'll stop, cool off, and have a sandwich. Oh, also, that entire ride, the issue that I was having before the start, and the reason I was stuck back in the gravel, my front disc brake was sticking. Like, you could hear it constantly rubbing, right? At first I'm like, yeah, fuck it, I'm just gonna go and the paddle wear off and I'll be fine. Well, now I'm, I don't know, 70, maybe 75 miles into this event. It's still rubbing to a point where I'm like, holy crap, this is costing me, I don't know, 5 or 10 or 400 watts per pedal stroke, right? So goddamn it, I'm gonna fix it. So I get off the bike, I have one of those little Cokes, I eat a pickle, which was delicious. I ate that sandwich, I drunk a bottle of water, filled them back up, went back, and I'm sitting in the shade, trying to cool off, because again, it's ungodly hot for that time of year. Go back to my bike, which is in the sun. I get my tools out, and I loosen up the brake calipers. I try to reset it. I think I have it set. Tighten them back up. Still rubbing. So I do it again, a little differently this time. Get it set. The wheel's spinning free. I'm like literally, like you'd spin the wheel, like you'd lift the bike up and you'd spin the wheel. It would go around like 4 or 5 times and stop. So there was a lot of resistance in there. So I free that up. I sit down, I drink a bottle of Gatorade or whatever. Talk to some people about, so that like by now, like most of the group has regrouped at this spot, right? And this is like one of those spots where like the shorter routes now are like commingling into this one. And so a lot of people that were only riding like the 50-mile route were starting to get in to this spot, right? So we've already ridden as much as they're going to ride, more than they're going to ride the whole ride. And they're slowly getting to this point, right? So they're like, I don't know, 25 or 30 miles into it. And I'm like 75 miles into it. It ended up being like 106 miles, but so I'm like pretty much sure that at this point I'm just gonna find a few people, a small group, that are gonna ride the same pace. I kind of knew everybody at that point, but we're just gonna ride. I'm gonna find a group, I'm gonna stick with them, come hell or high water. Well, as I'm adjusting my brake or whatever, a lot of them take off. And by the way, when you leave that spot, you're going up like a really steep, so a lot of people are like literally just walking to the top of this hill before they get on their bikes. I'm not that smart. So I barely get clipped in. In fact, I think I only had one cleat connected. And I start pedaling off, and I'm trying to shift down to my easiest gear, and finally get there. I get to the top of the hill, and I'm like, all right, that's fine. I'll catch them. I didn't catch them. I did pass some of them. I caught some of them. I passed them. At this point, they were going all really slow. Well, between there and there was the final rest stop was at like a winery, and it was like less than 10 or maybe about 10-ish miles to the finish, right? And they had a snow cone truck there. So I literally pass everybody in the group before I get to the snow cone truck. But I'm still hot. I'm still like sweating profusely. I'm out of water just from the 75 mile to the, let's call it 90-ish mile. I mean, it's probably like 95 mile mark. So I get off my bike, I grab a snow cone. It's very little syrup and mostly just ice, and I'm just like trying to cool off. There's all kinds of people that like are only riding like the 25 mile route right here, right? And they're like, oh my God. So I do that. I kind of wait for some people to reconnect, but they're kind of sitting down by the little creek there, and they don't look good. And I'm like, you know what? It's only, 5 miles, we're at 95 miles. It's only 5 miles to the finish. Well, it was actually like 11, but so I just go and I finish the race, and I got my barbecue and finished my barbecue. I put my bike away, got my barbecue, finished my barbecue, talked to a couple people before the first people in this group, these local people that were in this group that were hammering everything, finished. So that solidified for me that managing your power both up and down hills, not surging going up a hill and not coasting going down a hill, but trying to maintain similar, if not the same, even wattage going up and down, not surging or slowing down and then surging around corners, especially when there's not stop signs or traffic or other obstructions that you need to be careful of, and then surging away. And just overall managing your pace, your power pace throughout a ride is way more effective than doing it the way that most people do. So that's the lesson that I learned from the Licking Valley Century by the Cincinnati Cycling Club. I just got an email from them, I don't know if it was last night or this morning or overnight, whatever, that registration has opened up. There's already people from 6 states registered for this year, and it's capped at 800 people this year, and you better hurry up and register. I don't know if I'm going to ride it. I haven't really thought about, like, every year up to this point, going into the season, I'm like, you know what? I want to do an event every single weekend. I just want to go out and meet people and ride different roads. And this year I'm like, I've been more focused on my training. I want to get more fit. I want to get more training in. So maybe I want to be more selective about what events I do. But then I got an email from the Grand Fondo National Series. And it was basically saying that I'm pre-qualified for the national championship because of my results. I don't know if it was last year or the year before, whatever. They're basically like, yeah, you're pre-qualified, so come ride in Asheville in July. So then I'm like, the GFNS ride that I do in San Antonio, Florida, is in like, I don't know, March or April. It's a good training ride for the Cross Florida, so I think it's March. And then there's one in April up in the North Georgia mountains. So I don't know, I'm thinking maybe I'll do that whole series this year, which has always kind of been in the back of my mind that, maybe it'd be kind of cool to do that, like literally ride the entire series. I don't know. We'll see. One of the rides I think I want to do this year is it's like a double century. A friend of mine, John from Pennsylvania, has done it multiple times, and it's in like Virginia or West Virginia, somewhere over there. Hellishly, a lot of climbing and a long distance. But he said, you know what, it's gorgeous, it's beautiful, it's not hot. It's just a lot of work. So, I don't know. I do need to start thinking of that, because it seems that this year, like every event has opened their registration already. So you got to plan a lot sooner, because most of them now also are capping the size of the event. So if you don't register now, you probably ain't going to get to go. So I got to figure all that stuff out. Now I'm 17 and a half miles into it, because I went babbling about what my plans may or may not be for this year. So I guess I'm going to finish T. O. Owlson says, right on. So I'm just going to ride up to 18, and that's where I will put a cap on it. I certainly haven't put too much power in. I've been about where I'm supposed to be. I honestly haven't. I didn't look because I was in erg mode the whole ride. And after that, I know there were a couple climbs where maybe it was a little more. But I don't think, I certainly didn't need to. I think I've been pretty true to my Zone 1 effort today. So now I'm at 17.8. I got 0.2 of a mile, plus just a tiny fraction of a bit, to make sure that I get credit for the 18 on Strava. Because, you know, it's all about Strava. And then tomorrow is a big climbing competition. I'm not a climber. I'm not good at it, but I've been working on it, and I have been getting better. Last year, phenomenally better. And the year before that, which was 2 years before that, I was better than the year before. So I am getting better. I'm never going to be a climber, a categorized climber, but I am getting more gooder at it. And that's really the goal. So we're turning this corner and then we're going to go up. So this is a good spot for me to stop as we go around this corner here. I think I'm as far off the road as I can get. Oh, maybe this isn't where I thought it was. All right, well, I'm going to stop here nonetheless. And then I will go and I will do that thingamajig so that we can all look at the results now that I wrote a little extra, and we'll see what we did. Yeah. Well, so I never got out of, I went a little bit into the green, but not a whole lot. Like my top was like Not even 128, right? So average 99 watts, 18.2 miles an hour, 382 kcal, 26 TSS, which got me 1.3 slices of pie, which is a good thing because I'm going to eat some. I'm not going to eat some pizza tonight, but it's still a good thing. So I wanted to look really quickly just before I end the stream, because it will go away. Connection is too slow for quality. I got those messages twice, which is yeah, twice I got those messages. Okay, so